Well, hello there, wandering watcher. Are you streaming this from a place where cows outnumber people? Or from a skyscraper with coffee shops on every floor? Type your city and country in the comments. And don't keep this video all to yourself. Share the fun. Let's kick things off. At exactly 7:14 in the morning, I opened the email. I had just finished walking Duke, our dog. The dawn light still painted the sky, and the familiar aroma of coffee was beginning to waft through the house we once called home, the same house we purchased 10 years ago, back when our lives felt rooted in sincerity. The subject line said, "I have to be honest with you." The sender was Marissa. This weekend has changed me. Being around people who truly value energy, self-awareness, and purpose made me realize what I've been missing. I've found someone. His name is Kieran. He's a spiritual mentor and life coach, and he understands me in ways you never did. I won't be coming back. Also, I've moved $420,000 from your inheritance into my own account. Since we're married, I'm legally entitled to it, and frankly, I need it more than you do. Please don't drag this out. My attorney will be reaching out. Marissa. I looked at the screen without saying a word. There was no dramatic reaction. My hands stayed steady, my jaw relaxed. I didn't throw my mug or raise my voice. Instead, I leaned back and let out a quiet, almost amused breath. Because the truth was, the game Marissa thought she had just started was already over. And she had already lost. Chapter 2. Silent Moves, Permanent Impact. I didn't lash out. No angry texts, no emotional appeals, no frantic rebuttals, just a calm, measured response. Appreciate the clarity. That was all I needed. Just enough to plant doubt and buy time. What Marissa never suspected was that the inheritance she thought she'd accessed had never actually been within her reach. The reason? My grandfather had lived through 2 ugly divorces. He made me promise, swear, that the trust he left behind would remain secure, safeguarded under multiple layers of legal protection. The account Marissa drained? A decoy. 2 months ago, when her behavior started to shift, cryptic retreats, strange conversations, odd spiritual phrases, I contacted the family attorney. Together, we created a mirror account. Same bank, nearly identical details, but legally empty. I even seeded it with enough funds to seem legitimate. The $420,000 she moved was nothing but a mirage. The real trust had been quietly tucked away behind a corporate entity in Wyoming, insulated from any threat. That night I called my lawyer once more. "It's time," I said calmly. His answer came immediately. "Already in motion, she won't see it coming." Chapter 3. The Beginning of the End. The next morning, I followed my routine and went to work like any other day. There was no breakdown, no public display, just purpose. By noon, I had submitted 2 crucial filings, a petition for legal separation that included a motion to freeze all marital assets and an injunction for unlawful appropriation of shared property. Because that account she emptied was never legally hers, because she believed I was in the dark. But I had been watching for weeks. Random email accounts left open on her laptop, mysterious packages filled with incense and esoteric books from an Arizona retreat, phone calls taken behind closed doors. So I acted. I discreetly installed monitoring software on our shared devices, nothing aggressive, just protective. I gathered logs, call data, IP records, but the real evidence? Footage from our home office camera, showing her accessing the dummy account and moving the funds, grinning as she did it. That same afternoon, Kieran posted a pixelated photo of the 2 of them meditating on a coastal cliff. The caption, alignment, intention, abundance. I almost laughed, because right then her phone started vibrating. A message from her lawyer. She ignored it. Then came another, and another. She finally answered. And then it came. The scream. Sharp, panicked, unmistakable. Loud enough to alarm others at the retreat. She dropped the phone as her eyes scanned the screen, her face going pale. "Your account has been frozen. You are under investigation for unauthorized transfer of funds. The trust is not legally yours. Call me immediately. Chapter 4. The Retreat That Turned into a Cage. In Sedona, the desert that once felt spiritual now seemed smothering. The dry heat clung to Marissa's skin as she stood frozen, phone still in her hand. Kieran noticed. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice edged with concern. But she didn't answer. She stood shaking. She called her lawyer, no response. Called again, straight to voicemail. In a panic, she tried to access the account she believed held her stolen fortune. Access denied. Not a wrong password. No such account existed at all. Try again, Kieran insisted. She did. Same result. Her fingers trembled harder. "It's gone," she murmured. "The money's gone." His voice changed. "What do you mean, gone? What are you saying?" That was the moment she realized. Kieran hadn't been in it for love. He was after the money, and without it, the facade crumbled. He stood, fury rising. "I left everything behind for this. You promised the money was ready." Marissa stammered. I moved it. I saw the balance. I swear it was there." Kieran's eyes narrowed. "Then where is it now?" She couldn't answer. He grabbed his phone and stormed out of the lodge, leaving her behind. While she unraveled in the desert, I sat quietly in my study, sipping scotch. I wasn't gloating. This wasn't vengeance. This was correction. This was justice. She tried to break me when I was stationed overseas, loyal, unsuspecting, and thousands of miles away. Her intent was clear, to see me fall apart. Yet in the end, it wasn't me who unraveled. It was her. And that was only the beginning. Chapter 5. Legal Fallout. 3 days later, Marissa returned to what she still believed was her home. She never even crossed the threshold. The locks had been replaced. The gate code no longer worked. Her key fob blinked red in denial. She pounded on the door, screaming my name, her voice carrying down the quiet street. But I wasn't there. Instead, a calm man in a sharp suit descended the steps, a stack of papers in hand. "Marissa Caldwell?" She stiffened. "Yes?" "You've been served. As of now, this residence falls under the authority of its legal trustee. You are no longer entitled to live here." She snatched the envelope with trembling hands. "This is insane! This is my house!" He tapped a line on the document, her own signature staring back at her. The prenuptial agreement. Years ago, she skimmed it without thought, too swept up in the dream of marrying a stable soldier to care about fine print. Back then, she mocked the idea of contracts in a so-called modern marriage. But what she dismissed as pointless, I saw as preparation. That afternoon, her credit cards began declining one by one. Then came the final blow. Kieran. He disappeared. Not just that. He cleared out the yoga retreat's donation funds, took her emergency cash, and vanished completely, even blocking her number. Stranded, penniless, and abandoned by the man she gambled everything on, she was left with nothing. Meanwhile, I sat across from my attorney, who slid a folder across the polished table. "It's all finalized," he said. "Your accounts are secured, her access has been revoked, and the court date is locked in." I nodded. "Good, one more thing." He tilted his head. "What's that?" I let out a slow breath. "She once told me I'd be the one starting over from scratch. Now it's her turn." I paused briefly before adding, "And I intend to show her exactly what that feels like." 2 weeks later, I set the final stage in motion. By then, Marissa was holed up on a friend's lumpy couch in a cramped apartment shared with 2 cats and a broken heater. She spent her days dialing former co-workers, desperate for a way back in, but word had already spread. HR departments marked her as toxic. Rumors of her failed scheme to seize control of my trust quietly circulated through the legal community, just as I planned. Yet she clung stubbornly to the one thing she had left, her public image. That was my last target. I arranged for a keynote spot at the Very Wellness Expo, an event where she once basked in applause as a featured guest. This time, I was introduced as a veteran entrepreneur, there to speak on perseverance, reinvention, and self-respect. The audience cheered as I stepped onto the stage, oblivious to what they were about to hear. I began, I want to share a personal story about betrayal, trust, and why silence should never be mistaken for weakness. I told them how my marriage dissolved with a single email while I was stationed abroad, how the woman I trusted most tried to strip away my inheritance, how she brought another man into my home, believing I would break. But I didn't. I rebuilt. From every fragment she tried to destroy, I forged something stronger. The crowd gasped audibly. Phones rose, recording every word. And then I said her name, Marissa Caldwell. A hush swept through the hall. Some faces immediately registered recognition. Others simply stared in shock. But it didn't matter. The damage was sealed. The tide had turned, unstoppable. That night she sent me a message. Why would you do this? Why humiliate me like that? My reply was simple. You ended our marriage with one email. You tried to take what was never yours. You mistook my silence for surrender. Now you see the truth. Revenge doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be complete. Epilogue. Now I live quietly, without upheaval. I founded a non-profit dedicated to helping veterans confront betrayal and post-deployment wounds. People assume being a soldier is about force. But real strength? It's staying composed and watching justice unfold, sometimes with just the slightest nudge. As for Marissa, she's disappeared from the social circles she once paraded through, her name now permanently tied to treachery. I sometimes wonder if she ever confesses to anyone what brought her down. I doubt it. Even now, I'm certain that hearing my name alone would make her flinch.